How's it going? Welcome to DEMOVIDS Live.
You can give us a little PA. We're just going to record our theme song real quick.
Cool.
This is Steve. I'm Nate. Hello, how's it going? Steve's going to do a rig rundown for us, and it's way more complicated than I ever would have thought. So I'm really excited to hear about this and not understand how any of it works. Let's go.
All right. This is my Jazzcaster. You can tell it's got Telecaster hardware. All my guitars since the early 90s have been Warmoth parts guitars. So it's a Warmoth neck, Warmoth body. I don't have a pickup selector, as we'll get to in the extreme nerd part.
Extreme nerds.
Yeah. I make
That's
my
what we
pickup
are.
selection over there.
I like
in
that.
there with the brain.
That's interesting.
So both pickups come out the stereo jack, TRS jack, and these are basically both volume knobs for the P90, Lawler P90, and the Bartolini Strat style neck. Both guitars have identical electronics, identical wood, swamp ash, maple neck, rosewood fretboards. They're just different Fender style shapes. Telecaster's gone right now.
Someone done run off with
Dominic
his
stole it.
Telecaster. And I would just like to add, that's the coolest fucking paint job I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with you. That is the fucking coolest paint job.
It's like the pick guard is paint. That's amazing.
Yeah, I always like the sunburst, but I hate pick guards. I hate having a piece of plastic, and all that routing bullshit and all that wood missing. I figure less wood is less tone. So yeah, I just kind of made it look like some traditional old sunburst was massacred by some punk in the 80s, and then somebody tried to restore it but stopped halfway through. So, coming out of the guitar, we go into this custom audio electronics switcher unit made by the one and only Bob Bradshaw, who's kind of the king of MIDI controllable analog switching kind of stuff from back in the day. Made them for the Edge and Eddie Van Halen. And what this allows me to do is to make all these crazy decisions. The first thing that happens in there is I choose which pickup I'm going to use, and everything. And we'll go over to the foot switch later, but that crazy foot switch over there, the space shuttle control panel, has a switch for every function. The first thing that happens is I decide which pickup is going to happen, and then which of these pedals that's on the top, which are just kind of character pedals. These are each in their own little loop, so I can have either of those out, but these aren't like main to the tone. These are kind of supplemental, like things I've added after. The core of the tone is this guy, the Mesa Boogie Mark IV. I've had that since 91. I've had other amps with it. I use all three channels. I use clean, kind of a half gain, which depending on which pickup, it's kind of bluesy, overdrive, or classic rock. And then this full gain here, which is why I always use the Mark IVs and none of the other Mesas, is because that one, to me, it's not a heavy metal tone. It's more of a Skinnerd on steroids. I goose it a little bit with a Keeley-modded Rat, with just a little bit of gain added to it, just to kind of massage it a little bit.
So that's in the actual...
That's it. When I'm going full gain, that's going to the Boogie. And
Nice.
This is only in the Boogie chain. So at some point, the chain splits. I have a Boogie chain, which now a Garnet chain. Sometimes it's a Fender if I'm renting a Fender Twin, but these are freaking cool. These are...
I've never seen one of these before, so this is pretty cool.
I learned about Garnets from Steve Albini when we first recorded in Electrical. He had a head called a BTO. And they were hand-wired in Canada by a guy named Gar Gillies, who has now passed away. But he's also famous for making the thing called the Herzog for Randy Bachman, the American Woman solo tone, which is kind of like an amp frying into another amp.
Yeah, that is a wild tone.
That guy's famous for that. But anyway, he turned me on to this BTO head, which I could never find, but I found a couple of these, and I did some research, and they're actually cooler than the BTO in a way. This is kind of a twin sounding channel. It's kind of a Marshall Plexi type tone in this channel with the slowest tube tremolo you've ever heard in your life. It's so warm. You pull the knob out, and it goes half the speed of any other tube tremolos than you ever heard. Beautiful spring reverb, huge Hammond output transformer. It's just a really great sounding amp, really unique, and it splits that difference between a plexi and a twin, which are two of the things I've actually gone back and forth on over the years.
Great.
Yeah. And fundamental, all going through Ear Candy cabs made by Tim at Ear Candy. These ones are custom. The bottom half are sealed, and the top half are open.
Oh, perfect.
Open back, kind of mimicking what I liked in these old Mesa cabs that were half closed and half open back. And he also custom made the speakers. The bottom ones have this kind of sledgehammer type sound where if I really dig in, it kind of sounds like it takes a second for the hammer to come down before it's not tight. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I know exactly.
it's
what
like
you mean.
Harley instead of Honda.
Yeah, every night when you hit a big chord, it's like it hits you here and then it kind of
Wraps around.
hugs
Yeah.
you, like the Beastmaster guy.
Like the Beastmaster guy.
Yeah.
On whatever this amp is, which is now the Garnet, since it doesn't have multiple channels, I got an old MXR Distortion Plus racked up in there, which is for that kind of half gain. So that's simultaneous with the middle channel of the Boogie. And then for full gain, again, another Keeley-modded wrap, but this one obviously set a lot hotter on the gain since it doesn't have a lead channel of its own. And so this is a little more of a more traditional type sound, and this one's kind of like falling apart. And the blend of the two is pretty good. And then I can goose any of that stuff with these guys here.
It's a fucking magical guitar tone.
Thank you.
It's more than just oral. Aural. It's not oral.
Aural.
Aural. It's physical. Like it hits you, and that's something that's always stuck with me. Every time I've seen you play, I'm just like, I don't know how he does that. Now I know.
Extreme nerddom.
Yeah.
Is how it happens. Yeah, it's I got addicted to 2 amps in the early 90s, and once you go there, it's hard to go back because I feel that need for full frequency.
Yeah.
Which in this band is hard to carve out a niche in full frequency because everybody's going there. But it seems to do it well. All of our tones are really complementary with Scott with his Les Pauls and more of a British style overdrive sound, and mine kind of wrapping around it. I think it works well. And
Yeah, that's something that's always been really interesting to me about you guys is your tones. You can hear everyone perfectly, but it's all working together. Yet, no one sounds the same at all. But it's just this really powerful thing that hits you right in the chest.
that's the idea.
Good
Yep.
work.
Yep.
Good work. Where to next?
Let's hit these guys since we're over here.
All right.
Right? So these are kind of little flavors I have for after the fundamental tones that all these things do. This Land of the Rising Fuzz made by Fridge Buzz, kind of a Sinead Companion clone, but it's a little bit off, and so it kind of sounds to me like Satisfaction meets Helios Creed from Chrome.
Whoa.
It's just broken.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, broken sounding. Full tone OCD. I use this a lot of different settings on this as a kind of a clean boost or different characters of a half gain type stuff. And this Zvex Fuzz Factory I only use for the out of control self-oscillating, completely screw the pooch.
That's pretty much what
Kinda
it's
deal.
for. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's designed
Right,
for. And
right.
you can never go wrong with an OCD. That's like one of the best
No.
pedals you can get.
And
Awesome.
the EBO creates an electronic field that vibrates the string. You've heard them on a lot of songs, you just don't know it, but you do know it because
know
you know
it.
music more
Yeah.
than I know music almost. Your
Oh,
cataloged
Shut up.
brain of our conversations in the last couple weeks have been pretty deep on the musical history and musical knowledge.
It's true. We're nerds.
He's gifted. So yeah, it's just a way of making your guitar turn into a synth or a string type instrument, doing esoteric ambient bullshit through all of
when you
this.
want to
Yeah.
sound like your guitar is whistling.
Sure.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
He's like, this fucking idiot.
Yeah.